a family would simply return to the same web page that they were at when they completed the profile the first time. They would then click on the Returning Visitor button and enter the username and password that they provided when they completed their Whole Child profile. They will then be taken to the Welcome Back page. From here, a family can return to their Whole Child profile and update their responses to the questions, answer new questions that might have appeared since last time they completed the profile, or even update their demographic information to reflect the birth of new children or a change in address. The family can then complete the entire process again, all the way up until the point where they can add new services to their Whole Child plan. A family that just returned could now come down, select Hearing Screening, once again display providers in their community that offer hearing screening services, and add these providers to their Whole Child plan. The ProMod application framework and the EZSHS system are a robust package on which communities can build a diverse set of applications. This system, the DBS system for the state of Florida, offers much of the same functionality of the system we previously saw, but with a completely different look and a completely different interface. When a community purchases the EZSHS platform, they have the opportunity to customize virtually every aspect of the application to meet their needs. In addition to the public side of the ProMod application framework, which you've just seen demonstrated, there's another side available to the system administrators, community leaders, and the providers. Let's take a quick look at that so you'll understand what else the system can do for your community. By clicking on the Returning Visitor Advisor Provider Sign-In, a private side user may then enter their credentials and be taken to the private side of the system. Here you can see there are options available for providers, advisors, managers, administrators, and super administrators. Let's briefly walk through what each one of these roles is and look at some of the features. In this instance, you're looking at all the possible roles the system has to offer, from provider to super administrator. In reality, however, most users would only see one or two of these. For example, if you were a service provider interacting with the system, you would only see the options available to providers. You can access these options from either the menu bar at the top of the page or by clicking on one of these icons. Let's look at the provider options first. Service providers are people in the community who manage one or more programs. Programs provide services to families. The features that you see on this page allow service providers to interact with families that request services from them via the service request feature of the system, or also help families obtain other services in the community via the search for providers or their provider release. Let's start by looking at the Service Request Manager, which is the heart of the system for providers. The Service Request Manager is a type of dashboard for providers. It lets them see at a glance all the families that have outstanding service requests with them, and it allows them to interact with those family service requests. For example, if the provider would like to respond to this family service request for a program called Teen Time, they would click on the Edit button, which would then produce the information about this service request. The provider would then change the status to indicate to the system managers that they left a message for the client and are aware of this service request, update their record, and then the system will let them know that this information has been saved. They have now provided all the interaction that most communities expect from the service providers with the Whole Child system. It's really that simple. The system keeps track of service requests that might not have been responded to immediately. That way, if a provider overlooks one or they don't get notified via their email, a system administrator can follow up with the provider and make sure that none of the family's requests fall through the cracks. Going back to the main provider menu, now let's take a look at the provider search engine. This page is a full-featured search engine capable of allowing providers to find other service providers that families might need, or to refer families to other providers based on the information they offer. For example, if you wanted to look for child health providers in your community, you would simply check the Child Health Service box and click Search. The system would then quickly return you to a list of these providers, of which, once more, a family could click on the provider and receive information. You can also specify other requirements, such as not having a wait list, and select as many service types as you would like. Queries can be done by name, but you can also specify city, state, zip code, or any range of other options. As we explained while we were completing the profile earlier, maintaining a family's confidentiality and anonymity is very important. For this reason, the ProMod application framework uses a concept called releases. Let's quickly look at what a release does. A family that chose to provide a username and password when they completed their profile can then use this information as a sort of key to unlock their profile information and to allow a service provider that's participating in the community EZSHS Whole Child or any other ProMod system to view their profile information and obtain an automatic service request even without completing a profile. As you can see, I entered the username and password from the profile that we completed previously. Now when I return to the Service Request Manager, I have a new service request for the family that we just completed the release for. You'll note that providers can see the analysis history of families for information that is released to them. They can also see trend data related to the family's responses to the questions on the profile itself. Providers also have the capability to update all the information related to the programs that they manage. For example, for the sake of demonstration purposes, the provider that I logged in as is the owner of a program called Teen Time. I could then log into this program, update my information such as the program description, address, hours of operation, or provide special information to the family about eligibility or points of interest. And by simply clicking Update Provider, this information is saved not only for new families completing profiles, but it is also updated on all the Whole Child Plan documents for families that already have service requests with this organization. Now let's take a look at the advisor. Like a provider, the advisor looks at service request information about families, but there's a key difference between advisors and providers. Whereas a provider only sees service request information about families that are related to the programs that that particular provider is the owner of, an advisor has a holistic view of all the service requests. To illustrate this point, let's request an advisor release from the same family that we just obtained a provider release from. Just like a provider, the advisor would enter the family name's user and password, which would have to be given to them by the family. The advisor could then request a family release, look at the Service Request Manager, and unlike the provider, who only saw service request information about the one program that they managed, Teen Time, the advisor sees all the service requests from the perspective of the family. The reason for this is providers act as liaisons between the family and the service providers in the community, so they need to be able to see all the service requests that a family has and be able to edit them and update the information as needed. In addition to providing a full analysis, education, outreach, and service delivery program, the ProMod application framework also provides a wealth of information for community leaders and resource planners to gauge the health of the community and analyze trend data. Users with manager level of authentication